questions. Should the text go to the High Court? Will it involve costly legal affairs such as the defense lawyer and such? Will it be
if any dispute arises and it goes to court, would it result in costly legal expenses?
If it goes to court, it will be costly. I hope there are no lawyers present here, but we know what lawyers are like. Therefore, we intend having compulsory mediation. Therefore, we want to have arbitration, not for the sake of just keeping our autonomy away, but it will be so much less costly for people. At the moment, when there are problems and they go to the ulama and they mediate the matter and they arbitrate it, whatever the case may be, the costs are not just less, the costs are practically zero. But Imam's Islam and the lawyer's bill, there's a huge difference between the two. Yes, it will be costly. This is why we want mediation in place. We want arbitration in place. If that's in place, people have a place to go, and enforceability comes about because whatever agreement is reached in mediation or in arbitration becomes enforceable, comes from order of court, and it will be much less costly. It's not something new. Arbitration exists in matters of business all the time, and I think that people settle out of court probably most of the time simply because much speedier. Now long you have to wait for a court date and much less costly. So if it should ever happen that someone wishes to go to court, he should be aware of the fact it's going to be costly. If he is not a rich man, then he'll probably have to be taking himself, throwing himself on the mercy of the legal aid board. It remains to be seen what will be done in such a case. There are options available, they are very costly and they will be timeless. Okay, there's a question, are there sufficient Muslim lawyers to take part in this bill? And the second question, how about in future if Muslim lawyers turn out? That's a good question. Are there sufficient Muslim lawyers? If I look at the rest of the country, I see that in Durban, KwaZulu-Natal, the Muslim lawyers have organized themselves into an organization called AMAL, Association of Muslim Accountants and Lawyers. And they are very active as far as Muslim personal law is concerned. A few years ago, some 10 years ago or so, they invited an international group of scholars to come down and run courses on Muslim personal law, which I had the fortune to attend on behalf of the Muslim Judicial Council as well. In Johannesburg, there's a Muslim Lawyers Association, which takes a negative and a dim view of this particular process, but they have organized themselves into a body. In the Cape, unfortunately, that hasn't happened. They say it's because our lawyers are constantly defending criminals in court, are so by against the Sadika, lawyers are so I don't know how to is that, but I think it's probably time that our lawyers get themselves into some sort of, get their act together and speak as a united voice and prepare themselves, in fact, prepare themselves for the time when they will be expected to litigate issues of this nature. We do have at the University of the Western Cape, if you want to study law there is an option to study Muslim personal law as well. One of our colleagues who's present here is an alim as well as a law graduate. He tells me that most of the people that studied the Muslim personal law were non-Muslims. They were alive to the fact that there's going to be business. Muslims are going to come to court. And our Muslims, I do think we have quite a lot of Muslims that have done law. But where do they go? Criminal law, business, marathon, everywhere. Family law is going to be important. So I think we should take this opportunity to encourage our youth that there is going to be an important area, not of making money, of defending Allah Ta'ala Sharia, upholding our deen in that regard. If it should ever turn out in future, then I think it's not just the responsibility of the lawyers. Yes, first and foremost, those who even study law. But secondly, all of us as a community, we need to strategize from now. If we have one of our kids completing the thing, having the acumen, then we should encourage them, go study this, because we need people like you in the future.
For guidance because of inheritance.
We understand at the moment that inheritance is not. The other question is, are there provisions in the law for inheritance? Shaykh Abdul Hamid made reference to the issue of interstate succession as well. Just for the sake of clarity, when you die, may not be soon, but if you die without a will, then interstate succession, the South African law of interstate succession automatically applies to you, not in line with Sharia. Therefore, make sure you die with a will. If you should die, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that no Muslim should get 3 days pass away without a will. Last night we had a program in Lenderhiel, and this was one of the questions that came up. And it spurred us into thinking and made us think that perhaps the next step after this one is that we need to run programs and make it easy for people to have Muslim worlds. And the drawing up of a Muslim world is a very, very simple matter. A very simple matter. It could be so easily simplified if we have these courses and with the necessary literature or copies of the rules. We can tell people how to make their rules in workshops such as these, and so many people will not have to face interstate succession. They'll have their rules in place. What we try to do in terms of this act here is we try to include a clause which says that anyone who's married under this bill, if he should die intestate, Islamic law of succession will apply. We included that. We discussed the matter with lawyers, constitutional experts, or just the judges of the High Court, and we were cautioned. We were cautioned. This, including a clause such as this into this bill, is going to invite the attention of the Constitutional Court in a very, very negative manner. We're looking for trouble, in other words. That will draw their attention, and it will invite a constitutional challenge to this act. So we decided, let's just step back to our normal. In the meantime, if we cannot do that, we will still, on the side, try and find out, will they be amenable to something like this? Because if it happens, it's a huge gain for Muslims. But if it's going to invite a lot of negative attention, then what's the negative attention? Inevitably, someone is going to say, we're going to go take it to the Constitutional Court, and on this point here, the existing case law, the precedents of the Constitutional Court, they show negatively, they indicate negatively that if something like this goes to the Constitutional Court, chances are that the Constitutional Court might say this is unconstitutional. Therefore, what we are asking Muslims to do is make sure you have a law. This is something which we would love to cover under the bill, but it will just cause the bill to be targeted. So we're keeping it out of the bill for now, but we will, inshallah, run a campaign which will be brought out to the masajid with the necessary education and the literature. Anyone can have a Muslim world. It takes 5 minutes.
All Islamic law and Sharia all over the world, how do you think Western lawmakers want to accept of Islam is Muslim personal law? So why shouldn't in Islam the judges, why shouldn't places, not the court, a special court for Muslim judges be made? You don't have a problem with that. You get to any of these lawyers which we find maybe master that keep up institutions. Why not having this ownership to that matter?
What she has is very significant. The only thing, ever since the departure of the colonialists from the Muslim countries, the reclaiming of Sharia states in Muslim countries, only Muslim personal law. You go to Egypt, Syria, Jordan, their civil law is Western, it's either Swiss or it's French or it's English, it's not Sharia. The only area which is supposedly Sharia is only the area of Muslim personal law, not much else. Very little else. Just the question they're asking is that why should we not ask for complete Sharia course, completely divorce of the present system where you go and you have a Muslim judge and it's a completely Muslim environment. So, this was the very, very first demand that we made of government. 1995. I was part of that delegation that went to Dalai Lama, and we asked, the spokesperson was at the time, this was the Muslim personal board. He asked, what we want is a complete Sharia course with qadis and all the other paraphernalia that go together with the Sharia course. And the late Dalai Lama's first question to him, his first response was, what are the alternatives? He wasn't even considering something that is immediately into what are the alternatives. Now, was that malice on their part, or was it just constraints? There are certain things which tell us it's probably a matter of constraints. Last year, the Constitutional Court, which is the highest court of this country, it complained that they were requiring something like 1 point something million for their library. The Constitutional Court needs to be updated. They were only granted 300,000 for their library. The Supreme Court of Appeal that has, I don't know how many justices who are complaining of being underfunded. And all of us know how long it takes to get a court date because the roles are simply so long. So in all realism, if we're going to be realistic about this, that demand was made, it was not even entertained. So if you don't get that, then we go for the next thing. And that is, we have it as part of the present system, but we want dedicated Muslim judges for this particular thing. They want educated judges. The space within which a judge sits is not what makes it compliant. It is the law which he applies which is going to make it compliant. He can be sitting for that matter, and he can be passing judgment there. As long as the provisions of the act by which he is judging, as long as the judgment is handing down, is in line with Sharia, it's compliant. Having a specific space is a comfort factor. It will make us feel better and give us greater sense of being isolated from the rest of the legal system. But I think it's unrealistic at this moment to demand it. There is a demand for it. Right now, there are those who are asking for complete separate Sharia courts under the Superior Court. Well, that is an admirable attempt, but we have done that attempt 15 years ago. If that attempt would succeed, alhamdulillah. If that attempt doesn't succeed, the United Ulama Council is still here. Next question.